Hey there and welcome back to the video series about hashing data structures in Java. So we ended up having a situation where we had actually created a hash map and we used the country custom class objects as the key, and then we put in the capital as the values. And this only worked when we did an override of hashcode. And just to test it out quickly again, if we test it out right now, we can see we get null, and we provided the correct information. This should be the same, and we also have equals overridden, so that should be the same. And the reason lies in that this will compute a hash code. So C3 will compute a hash code, and more specifically it's gonna compute the hash code of object, which is the most basic one. So this one is, these will actually be two independent objects in memory. So they will point to two separate memory spaces, and therefore they will have distinct hash codes. And if we want to determine that these should be the same, we need to overwrite the hash code. So we can do this by actually, as we did before, get our ID to help us, and we can say name. And the reason why it works now, because now we can get Helsinki out of it, is because that, yeah, it will use a couple of constants here. It's gonna use a prime number, and then it's actually gonna include the hash code of name. And one of the rules about hash code is that it should generate the same hash code for the same object. So whenever we have a new object, if we have another country with another name, it should be a different hash code. So actually one of the most basic rules about the hash code is that it should return, if we just take this one away here, that it should return, it could return 0, because it just needs to return the same hash code for the same object always, and it should be an integer number. So this is actually a valid hash code return here, okay? But the problem with this implementation of hash code is, if we try it out here, yeah, it's gonna work okay. But the problem is that in the underlying hash map now, see here, now all these different implementations is gonna get the same hash code. So it's gonna be 0, 0, and 0. So this is actually going to be the index that they're going to be stored in the hash map. And when two keys map to the same hash code, then we have a collision. Now the way that hash map resolves a collision in Java is that it will create a linked list for this index, and then it will actually keep all these elements, all these values that have collided in this linked list. And if we use the same hash code for all of our objects, then essentially what this hash map is going to be, it's going to be one big linked list, because they're all going to be stored at index 0. So that's why it's not a good idea to use return 0. Alright, so if we keep this away here, whoop, if I can make this work, then we can actually see that we need to put include some of the unique parts of our object. So the name, other properties of the business entities. So we will include the name, we could include the capital if that was part of it, the population, something else like this. And the reason why we have prime numbers and we have constants is that we want to minimize the risk that two objects will have a hash code where there could be some common factors in there. That could also increase the risk of collisions. So overall, the hash code is an integer number that should include as many parts of the business entity as the class as possible. So if you have more parts, you should include this in your hash code implementation. Okay. But it is important to also to emphasize that we're using this in, maybe the most common way would be to have the string value here, a unique string value to or a unique string key that will save the key and be hashed, so it will use the string hash, and then we will have the object over here, some sort of business object. All right, but still, it is a good practice to implement hash code and equals because they have this this contract between them. So I think this is probably concludes what I wanted to mention about the hash map and generally about the hash-based data structures in Java. And I hope you make this work. Thanks for watching. Bye bye.